"Well, here we are at last," said Gandalf. Here the elven way from Holland ended. Holly was the token of the people of that land, and they planted it here to mark the end of their domain. For the west door was made chiefly for their use in their traffic with the lords of Moria. Those were happier days, when there was still close friendship at times between folk of different race, even between dwarves and elves. "It was not the fault of the dwarves that the friendship waned," said Gimli. "I have not heard that it was the fault of the elves," said Legolas. "I have heard both," said Gandalf, "and I will not give judgment now, but I beg you two, Legolas and Gimli, at least to be friends, and to help me. I need you both. The doors are shut and hidden, and the sooner we find them, the better. Night is at hand." Turning to the others, he said, "While I am searching, will you each make ready to enter the mines? For here I fear we must say farewell to our good beast of burden. You must lay aside much of the stuff that we brought against bitter weather. You will not need it inside, nor, I hope, when we come through and journey on down into the south. Instead, each of us must take a share of what the pony carried." I have no idea what that was. Especially the food and the water skins. Here's the picture, by the way. I've got this beautiful, beautiful artwork. I feel like a play school person. How do I... trying to get it. Great. Nailed it. Do. "But you can't leave poor old Bill behind in this forsaken place, Mr. Gandalf," cried Sam, angry and distressed. "I won't have it, and that's flat, after he's come so far and all." "I am sorry, Sam," said the wizard, "but when the door opens, I do not think you will be able to drag your Bill inside, into the long dark of Moria. You will have to choose between Bill and your master." "He'd follow Mr. Frodo into a dragon's den if I let him," protested Sam. "It'd be nothing short of murder to turn him loose with all those wolves about." "It will be short of murder, I hope," said Gandalf. He laid his hand on the pony's head and spoke in a low voice. "Go with words of guard and guiding on you," he said. "You are a wise beast, and have learned much in Rivendell. Make your ways to places where you can find grass, and so come in time to Elrond's house, or wherever you wish to go. There, Sam. He will have quite as much chance of escaping wolves and getting home as we have." Sam stood sullenly by the pony and returned no answer. Bill, seeming to understand well what was going on, nuzzled up to him, putting his nose to Sam's ear. Sam burst into tears and fumbled with the straps, unlading all the pony's packs and throwing them on the ground. The others sorted out the goods, making a pile of all that could be left behind and dividing up the rest. When this was done, they turned to watch Gandalf. He appeared to have done nothing. He was standing between the two trees, gazing at the blank wall of the cliff, as if he would bore a hole into it with his eyes. Gimli was wandering about, tapping the stone here and there with his axe. Legolas was pressed against the rock, as if listening. "Well, here we are, and all ready," said Merry. "But where are the doors? I can't see any sign of them." "Dwarf doors are not made to be seen when shut," said Gimli. "They are invisible, and their own masters cannot find them or open them if their secret is forgotten." "But this door was not made to be a secret known only to dwarves," said Gandalf, coming suddenly to life and turning round. "Unless things are altogether changed, eyes that know what to look for may discover the signs." He walked forward to the wall, right between the shadow of the trees where there was a smooth space, and over this he passed his hands to and fro, muttering words under his breath. Then he stepped back. "Look," he said. "Can you see anything now?" The moon now shone upon the grey face of the rock, but they could see nothing else for a while. Then, slowly on the surface, where the wizard's hands had passed, faint lines appeared, like slender veins of silver running in the stone. At first they were no more than pale gossamer threads, so fine that they only twinkled fitfully where the moon caught them. But steadily they grew broader and clearer, until their design could be guessed. At the top, as high as Gandalf could reach, was an arch of interlacing letters in an elvish character. Below, though the threads were in places blurred or broken, the outline could be seen of an anvil and a hammer surmounted by a crown with 7 stars. Beneath these again were 2 trees, each bearing crescent moons. More clearly than all else, there shone forth in the middle of the door a single star with many rays. We've got another picture. Ooh, picture. Ooh la 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 la. Okay, great. There are the emblems of Durin, said Gimli. And there is the tree of the High Elves, said Legolas. And the star of the House of Fëanor, said Gandalf. There wrought of the Ithildin, that mirrors only starlight, and the moonlight, and sleeps until it is touched by one who speaks words now long forgotten in Middle-earth. It is long since I heard them, and I thought deeply before I could recall them to my mind. What does the writing say? Said Frodo, who was trying to decipher the inscription in the arch. I thought I knew the elf letters, but I cannot read these. The words are in the elven tongue of the west of Middle-earth in the elder days, answered Gandalf. But they do not say anything of importance to us. They say only, the doors of Durin, Lord of Moria. Speak, friend, and enter. And underneath, in small and faint, is written, I, Narvi, made them. Celebrimbor of Holland drew these signs. This was me. What does it mean by speak, friend, and enter? Asked Merry. That is plain enough, said Gimli. If you are a friend, speak the password, and the doors will open, and you can enter. Yes, said Gandalf. These doors are probably governed by words. Some dwarf gates will open only at specific times or for particular persons, and some have locks and keys that are still needed when all necessary times and words are known. These doors have no key. In the days of Durin they were not secret. They usually stood open, and door wards sat there, but if they were shut, any who knew the opening word could speak it and pass in. At least so it is recorded, is it not, Gimli? It is, said the dwarf. But what the word was is not remembered. Narvi and his craft and all his kindred have vanished from the earth. But do you not know the word, Gandalf? Asked Boromir in surprise. No, said the wizard. The others looked dismayed. Only Aragorn, who knew Gandalf well, remained silent and unmoved. Then what was the use of bringing us to this accursed spot? Cried Boromir, glancing back with a shudder at the dark water. You told us that you had once passed through the mines. How could that be if you did not know how to enter? The answer to your first question, Boromir, said the wizard, is that I do not know the word yet, but we shall soon see. And, he added, with a glint in his eyes under their bristling brows, you may ask what is the use of my deeds when they are proved useless. As for your other question, do you doubt my tale? Or have you no wits left? I did not enter this way, I came from the east. If you wish to know, I will tell you that these doors open outwards. From the inside you may thrust them open with your hands. From the outside nothing will move them save the spell of command. They cannot be forced inwards. What are you going to do then? Asked Pippin, undaunted by the wizard's bristling brows. Knock on the doors with your head, Peregrine Took, said Gandalf. But if that does not shatter them, and I am allowed a little peace from foolish questions, I will seek for the opening words. I once knew every spell in all the tongues of elves or men or orcs that was ever used for such a purpose. I can still remember 10 score of them without searching my mind, but only a few trials, I think, will be needed, and I shall not have to call on Gimli for words of the secret dwarf tongue that they teach to no one. The opening words were elvish, like the writing on the arch. That seems certain. He does a lot of guessing, and then finally, the wolves start coming for them. Yeah, again Gandalf approached the wall, and lifting up his arms he spoke in tones of command and rising wrath. Edro! Edro! He cried, and struck the rock with his staff. Open! Open! He shouted, and followed it with the same command in every language that he had ever spoken, and that had ever been spoken in the west of Middle-earth. Then he threw his staff on the ground and sat down in silence. In that moment, from far off, the wind bore to their listening ears the howling of wolves. Bill the pony started in fear, and Sam sprang to his side and whispered softly to him. Do not let him run away, said Boromir. It seems that we shall still need him, if the wolves do not find us. How I hate this foul pool. He stooped and picked up a large stone. He cast it far into the dark water. The stone vanished with a soft slap, but at the same instant there was a swish and a bubble. Great rippling rings formed on the surface out beyond where the stone had fallen, and they moved slowly towards the foot of the cliff. Why did you do that, Boromir? Said Frodo. I hate this place too, and I am afraid. I don't know of what, not of wolves nor the dark behind the doors, but of something else. I am afraid of the pool. Don't disturb it. Too late for that. I wish we could get away, said Merry. Why doesn't Gandalf do something quick? Said Pippin. Gandalf took no notice of them. He sat with his head bowed, either in despair or in anxious thought. The mournful howling of the wolves was heard again. The ripples on the water grew and came closer. Some were already lapping on the shore. With a suddenness that startled them all, the wizard sprang to his feet. He was laughing. You have it, he cried. Of course, absurdly simple, like most riddles when you see the answer. Picking up his staff, he stood before the rock and said in a clear voice, Melon. The star shone out briefly and faded again. Then, silently, a great doorway was outlined, though not a crack or joint had been visible before. Slowly it divided in the middle and swung outwards, inch by inch, until both doors lay back against the wall. Through the opening, a shadowy stair could be seen climbing steeply up, but beyond the lower steps, the darkness was deeper than the night. The company stared in wonder. "I was wrong after all," said Gandalf, "and Gimli too. Merry of all people was on the right track. The opening word was inscribed on the archway all the time. The translation should have been, 'Say friend and enter,' with quotes around it. I had only to speak the Elvish word for friend, and the doors opened. Quite simple, too simple for a learned lawmaster in these suspicious days. Those were happier times. Now let us go." Hey, so, welcome. I just thought that we'd buy some time for people to see the message and show up. So that was the section. I've only done a few streams, so I don't begin all my streams by doing readings, but maybe I should. Mayhaps I should. So that was the section from the Fellowship of the Ring, in which we get the riddle door that I poked fun at in my traps video that got me in a lot of trouble from a lot of people. So, welcome. We're going to try and build some traps today. I did want to first address a couple of very simple things that came up a lot of times in the comments. Now let me see if I can actually remember what they were. I know that the first thing I wanted to talk about was, thank you, lots of reading, recitation, acting degree. First thing that came up a bunch in the comments that I wanted to address, before I forget, I talked about passwords, and I said that password is something that you either know or you don't know. Basically, oh no, is Matt in the chat? Oh boy. Hi Matt. Yeah, no, password's something that you either know or you don't know. And a lot of people brought up the idea of secret questions. We have a system in place in the real world for if we forget our password. Lots of people are forgetful. However, I would point out to people that the secret question that guides you to what your password was when you forget it is another thing that you either know or you don't know, and that you know by virtue of being yourself. So you're never going to have something that can be worked out. If your password is Venus, your secret question isn't going to be, what's the second planet from the sun? And it's not even going to be some cryptic statement about the Roman goddess of love, because you don't want someone who isn't you to be able to work it out. So secret questions tend to be things like, what was your first pet's name? What is your mother's maiden name? What street did you grow up on? And they're things that you know just by being yourself. They're things that you have just in the backlog of your identity. And they're things that other people could know, but usually not a stranger. And that's part of why so much of real world hacking that gets into like email addresses and bank accounts and things like that, and identity theft, is actually done via phone calls and tricking people into telling you things about themselves. Or even online stuff, people have used those things of, using this information about your mother's maiden name and the street you grew up on, you can find out what your, well, the only one that comes to mind is stripper name, what your stripper name is. And sometimes those have been used to get information about people that you can use to kind of hack in through their different accounts, because it bypasses the password via secret questions. I had to double check whether it was the second planet. My very easy memory jingle seems useful naming planets. That's why I picked one with not an M as well. Let's be real. So that's one thing. Yes, there can be reminders to password kind of situations. I wouldn't have them be part of the door. So, I mean, we just read the example from Lord of the Rings. Realistically, like, people have pointed out a lot of great things about it being, Gandalf translating badly, it not actually being a riddle, the fact that the elves were just being racist and were like, well, only the intelligent races will be able to read our language. And those are all really good points. Ultimately, we do know that Tolkien just wanted a riddle. He loves riddles. He just wanted to put in a riddle. So he did some great excuses there. But for the purposes of a D&D game, for the most part, I do believe that you shouldn't have the answer, the clue to what the answer is in a password situation on the door. That's a little too much for me to buy into, or maybe just to buy into more than once. So I'm not saying that you can't have clues or riddles or what have you, but I would suggest spreading them out a little bit. I think the Dragon Age games are pretty good at this in terms of lots of letters back and forth between bad guys or different people who end up collectively forming whatever the clue is to a particular puzzle, and that's kind of a neat way of investigating that leads to solving something like a riddle without it being obvious that it is a riddle necessarily. What was the other thing that came up? A whole lot. Oh yes, something that's going to be important for the sake of coming up with this stuff. Where's my chat on the side? Great. One of the things that kept coming up was a lot of people trying to describe the other side of the argument in terms of, I talked about the Harry Potter, the puzzles that led to the Philosopher's Stone and how they don't make sense as like a lock to keep the stone protected, because when you're trying to protect something, you're keeping it locked away. You don't want people to be able to get through the thing. As well as, to a certain extent, the riddle door from Fellowship of the Ring. But often people were using my phrases and giving them back to me. Not wrongly. It's my fault for not laying out more clearly. People were sort of saying, right, but then those things are just a trial for the worthy. You have to be worthy to be able to, beat McGonagall's magical chess set. And that is true, except those terms that I made up and was using, the idea of, the lock and key traps, the traps proper, and the trial of the worthy traps, that describes, that those are meant to describe the purpose of the trap, not the function of the trap. So you can have something that, I'm trying to think of a perfect description. I have a notebook somewhere where I wrote it down, but it's like far away and I can't reach it. So you can have something that acts like a trial of the worthy trap, but is meant as a lock and key, if you know what I mean. So, guys, I'm dying. I found my stuff. Why do I even have ears? I just realized y'all aren't talking to me. I'm talking to you. Why don't I put these down? Don't need to wear them. Okay, so where are my notes? Where are my notes? Where are my notes? Yeah, so it's just you can have a trial of the worthy, but it acts as a lock. So we're talking about the Mirror of Erised, the way that it's used as kind of a trial of the worthy. You have to be someone who wants the stone but doesn't want to use it, but it's used to lock the stone away. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I hope that you know what I mean. All right, so we're going to try and build some traps today. And I should say that for the most part, we're going to be generating ideas together, but I'm going to be avoiding anything that ends up being a trial of the worthy trap. Not because they're bad, but because I don't think people tend to need help with them. I think those are the things that come to mind most readily. I think everyone has really good ideas for them. And I think that they don't need to be practical. And the idea of this stream is that we're going to try and build some sort of practical or sensible traps. So trial of the worthy, for the most part, tends to be the most fantastical circumstance for a trap. You're wanting to prove that only someone strong enough or someone smart enough or someone swift enough can do this thing. I've guys, the ears that I took out. I'm gonna mute the computer. Not that it really matters. I laid these down in a pool of water, so that's fun. Hopefully they're still alive. Yeah, so no one's having trouble coming up with Trial of the Worthy Traps. Trial of the Worthy Traps tend to be the most magical, tend to be, you know, all these things. How would I handle an Erised situation? I mean, the Mirror of Erised itself is a good lock and key. I think it works really well. It doesn't need to... Oh, a 5-second reminder of the types. Lock and key is a trap system that is designed to keep something, like, to shut a door. Whether that's for, like, a vault, to keep something, like an item, protected in a chest or, you know, whatever, or whether it's to get inside somewhere. It's just basically a locked door. You have the lock, you have the key, whoever has the key can get through the lock. And if you don't have the key and you try to get through the lock, then you're in danger. There's the traps proper, which was basically anything that is designed to kind of spring if it isn't avoided, I guess. So that's like the rabbit snare was the example I used. It's you lay the traps here and there, and then the people who know where the traps are don't step on the traps. And those traps can aim to kill, they can aim to capture, they can aim to, you know, do any number of things. But the idea is that, you know, you lay them out, and if you are on the side of the traps, you know where not to step. And then there was Trial of the Worthy Traps, which are a little bit more nebulous in terms of who can get past them, where the other two styles of traps are designed for, these are the only people who will successfully get through the lock and key, or the only people who will get trapped are people who don't know the stuff, where you get to the Trial of the Worthy, and it's like, we don't know who's gonna make it through, but someone at some point is gonna prove themselves. Maybe. Yeah. I have ears because I'm a tetrapod. That's one hell of an assumption to make. Alright, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make some traps. I haven't completely thought this through, so hopefully it will work. We might not even come up with any good traps today, but we'll see. The easiest way to come up with good ideas is to generate a lot of ideas and then whittle them down and refine them. So, in order to generate ideas, rather than doing like, what are they called, straw polls, because we'd have to keep like making new ones with new stuff in the, where's the button? Share! Okay, great. People with the link can edit. Copy that link. Nice. Done. So what I've done, I've just got this this Google Doc thing, this whatever. We've got a category for baddies, a category for purpose, and a category for other thematic elements, and I want people to start just putting in ideas. If you see an idea in there already that you like, just put a little tally mark behind it. I have no idea whether this is going to function, but we're going to try to make it function. So these are elements to go towards the adventure where we need a trap. So baddies, you could put things like, you know, an ancient cult long dead. So that gives us a few bits of information about them. We know that they were an ancient cult, but they're not there anymore. So what would be a trap that might be left behind by an ancient cult? No longer around. Or you could have just something as simple as kobolds. Let's make a trap that a bunch of kobolds have, and that gives us some information in terms of, you know, the level of sophistication of the trap, maybe, or if it was the goblins, we would know what kind of mentality they have, what they want to achieve by it. Purpose, that's, you know, is I have a list somewhere, I made a little list. What is it? So, is it a vault? Is it an entrance? Is it a hunting ground and they're trying to, you know, ensnare people? Is it guarding territory? Is it a security feature? Maybe that ancient cult wanted a trap that they thought anyone who entered this space couldn't be allowed to escape again because they have this information about the cult. So, you know, is it a security element? And then other thematic elements is just anything else that you like a location or a cool, like, ooh, we want a time feature. Or, you know, maybe you want it to make use of some characters' little used sort of class feature, you know, something like that. So I'm gonna chuck this link in the chat. Boop-a-doo-boo, dropping it in the chat now, if I can find the chat. Where in the world? Okay, great. I'm gonna drop this link in the chat, and you should be able to edit with it. Be free! Look, I don't know, man. The organization of this is real bad. I don't know whether this will work at all. But we're generating ideas. And then wow! Look at that! Look at you go! Ooh, this is fun. Kobolds call me. Oh, see, guys, this is why I'm using a trust system right now. Team, come on. Let's work together. Let's make this legible. I mean, how many people are watching right now? How many people are trying to edit this one doc at the same time? Oh boy. All right. Great. Cool. Yep. Nice. We got like 300 people. All right. It's fine. I trust us to work together. This is neat. Okay, cool. Are there things coming up that people like that are happening in here? Vampires is neat. That's cool. What kind of vampires? What kind of traps would vampires make? We got a whole lot of bad guys. Are there any of these that we could combine? Vampire pirates, marrow pirates. That's nice. We've got the goblins, the fear-based trappers. Rich and well-connected family. I like that. I like that idea. I'm putting eyes after them as tallies. So if you just build up a tally as you go. Ow! Ow! I don't know how to explain what just happened. I just like jammed my finger into the SD port on my laptop. So that's happening. Are people deleting You can't delete tallies, guys. You can only add tallies. Think of this as a subreddit where you have to, you know, only upvote. This is a mess, but it's a beautiful mess. I am verbally discouraging people from editing each other's ideas. Alright? No one mess around with each other's ideas. I mean, oh, dropping spoons. This is a mess anyway. It's, you know, we're not looking for anything particularly, like, sophisticated in this system, obviously. But, okay, we've got some great ideas. Alright, and if there was a way I could... Wait, let me see. Okay, and now I'm gonna change it to view. Done. And everything quiets down. Okay. Accidental system for shutting it down. Great. So let's see what we've got. We've got a bunch of stuff. I clearly didn't think this through, but you know what? I didn't have to make 1,000 straw polls, so I'm happy with it. So, oh, that's a good idea. Vampires trapping people for harvesting. That's a neat little idea. So that's cool. Where's my book? I might actually write some of these things down in pen so that I can keep the thoughts separate. One day I'm gonna have to set up, if we keep doing like world building-esque streams, I'm gonna have to set up like a camera that can view my notebook, because I do all my best thinking via pen. And I write out a whole lot of crap, and then I condense it all down. I think somewhere in the start of this notebook I have my my initial notes on the Thieves' Camp video, which is... Here we go. This is it. This is like, there's a ton of stuff in here. and it got so complicated. I can't even describe to you how complicated it is. I was working out like this clock system down here with what all the different cards meant, and it just, I like that it gets overcomplicated, and then you condense it all down, and you find just the good bits, and you take just the good bits. And the best homebrews that I've come up with have come from that system and have had enough time to condense fully. So, alright. Vampires. Harvest. Question mark. We've got a beholder. There was some good talk in the comments about beholders' lairs and the fact that, in terms of practicality, a beholder can float and doesn't have to worry about magic stuff. And, why would they enable bypassing that stuff in their lair for people to do when they don't need to worry about that? But for a trap, I don't know whether a beholder would really build a practical trap. A disgruntled English major, beautiful. Goblinoids, elves, orcs. Stolen from the new D&D book, groups of bandits disguised as vampires to fool adventurers. I mean, that's neat. Gonna move this across. Yeah, the tallies definitely wasn't useful. We're learning a lot of things here today. Can we keep the page up after the stream? Yeah, I mean, I won't delete it. I'll add the link probably for viewing in the description of the VOD when I upload it to YouTube. If I upload it to YouTube. I'll probably upload it to YouTube. So, Goblin Warband. Ooh, I like that. I like the idea of the warband. I'll have to alter the way I think about goblins, but I like it. Leprechauns. Kobolds, you want tea. A rich and well-connected noble family, I do like that, because that gives us some, like, human-level vault-style ideas. Let's see, pixies, a delusional noble who considered himself king despite only being a baron, that's very detailed. Pirates, Swedish ogres, a death cult. A death cult is nice. Let's add a death cult. Ancient elves. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. A wizard. We can chuck in a wizard. I say as if we're gonna get through all of these, but. A wizard is always nice. A wizard, when a wizard makes a bunch of traps to protect his wizard's tower while he's gone, it's pretty dope. Ancient folk who built a tomb, but are long since dead. So, ancient tomb. Nice little Egyptian-y thing. A lot of people in the comments were saying that traps in Egyptian tombs are a Hollywood myth. And those people, I would recommend, should go and read the diaries of Giovanni Battista Belzoni. Why won't it let me scroll down? Mad Gnome Scientist. Mad Gnome Scientist. Ooh, that could be cool in terms of maybe we can come up with something that works based on sort of character size, have something where it's like a gnome would easily be able to like get into something, but if you're medium or larger, then you're gonna have a tough time. That could be fun. One dog. Lovely. Ancient Assassins Guild, Thieves Guild. Oh, a Thieves Guild. Let's check the Thieves Guild in there. I don't have a Thieves Guild in my setting, but a Thieves Guild would make some pretty dope traps. Wow, we got real far down in this duck, y'all. Okay, got more wizards. We got a horse, a hat. People got silly. Okay, now purpose. Let's come up with some purposes. So prevent living creatures approaching. So okay, if we're preventing living creatures approaching, but what's the like actual goal of that? So that's kind of the function of what it would do, but what would be the goal of? I don't know if werewolves would make a trap. Like, why wouldn't... Yeah. I mean, they could. They absolutely could in your game, but, like, nothing is springing to mind full of inspiration. I can't choose everyone's, yo. And we're not even going to get through all the ones I did choose. Yes. Alright. Create death, humiliate lesser beings. Oh, I see. Okay, so people are applying the purpose to the thing on the left. Right. Okay, great. I mean, maybe I should have... Look, I should have done a lot of things in terms of how this duck works. We're probably never going to do this again. But, for the time being, we're doing fine. So, separating the party, that's a classic Colville and a classic Jim Murphy. Watching his trap video that he did recently. If you haven't watched it, go watch that. He gives a very practical example that a lot of you could use probably more than my video. But separate the player party. That's a cool thing. It's got like a divide and conquer element to it. The trap itself would not be built with that purpose though, would it? That would just be the effect of the trap. So like if a portcullis drops down between the player party, that would just be clever use of that portcullis. The portcullis itself is built to keep people out. So the function of it has to reflect that. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're designing the trap is impartial. The trap doesn't understand its circumstances. The trap knows only one thing, and that is its purpose and how to reverse that. So if you've got a portcullis that drops down, there has to be a way to lift the portcullis, but if you're thinking about it logically, if it's designed as a defensive mechanism, even if it has been used to split the party, you know that the system for raising the portcullis is probably fairly simple. It's probably just one of those like pull the wheel. I don't know, I've played a lot of video games, but you know that it's on one side of the portcullis, not on the other. Yeah, that kind of thing. And then we can kind of start to build from there. For traps set to protect something, does it make sense that you would have two sets of traps? The first lethal to keep people out, the second non-lethal to sequester people who got past the first so that the trap maker can find out how they got past before killing them. You could definitely make that make sense if you had something like a gnomish scientist, you know, who wants to defend his stuff. I do like that. I like that. LPGWV Jason. What if the vampire trap was designed to keep people in once they enter? So, keep people in. So it's not even necessarily... yeah, it'd be a trap proper. Yeah. So we're harvesting them. That's nice. Okay. Enchant death. Remove life. There's a lot of death in these trap purposes. We all took the lethality thing all the way. I'm very sorry that I cut some people off mid-sentence when I stopped the editing, but also we needed to stop the editing. So, call attention to where the heroes are. Classic, I love an alarm. But specifically, this alarm doesn't just say someone is here, it says where they are. So, sorry, I just had an idea for that. The idea that you could have something which, you know, coats them in paint or in, you know, flour or something that leaves footprints so that, like, as they're, you know, moving around, you can trace where they are and track them really easily. So I'm just going to write paint trap and we can alter that as we go. Confused players add to a sense of disorientation. I see that that's attached to a Minotaur, but I like the idea of it just in general. So, disorient. Kill thief. Capture or sacrifice to a deity, do not kill. I like that. We can pair that with the cult. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, they've got that idea of, like, someone's intruding, but instead of killing them, you just incapacitate them so that you can save them and sacrifice them later on. Kind of a little bit tied to Heli. If anyone's read Tamlin, the poem about it's like a human and gets caught by the Unseelie court, and they keep hold of him until they have to pay a tithe to hell every... Is it every 7 years? I feel like it's every 7 years. That sounds right. So, keep to sacrifice. Yeah. That's interesting. Make the party return to the starting point, stopping them from advancing. The tricky thing there is that's not, again, the purpose. The purpose is stop them from advancing. The function is by creating a spatial loop. So, I mean, that's a good one, but in terms of like the phrasing of it, the way that we're thinking about it, we need to be thinking in terms of the purpose of the trap is to stop them from getting in. And the way that that works is by creating this spatial loop. But where does that make sense? And does that become a lock and key, or then does that become trial of the worthy in terms of them getting through it? I mean, you could make it either way, but you'd have to think it through. Thematic elements that we could add in, that we could pepper in. Ooh! Series of light spells. Light spells is nice. Could add that to a prison. Wouldn't that be cool? So, like, flip it around. So instead of trying to get into somewhere, you're trying to get out of somewhere. And then have it act like the spotlights when you trip the alarm on your way out. Ooh, drowning their prey. Ooh, that's very uncomfortable. I love that. Ooh, bag of holding. Like a classic pit trap that's covered in leaves that you fall into, but it's a bag of holding. Bag of holding pit trap. That's kind of cool. The swinging iron bar that giants simply step over. Oh, what's this one? Explodes if opened with a metal key. Excuse me, laptop. What in the world? I want to read it. Let me read it. Okay, explodes if opened with a metal key or tools. I understand that this won't be on screen for you guys, but I can't make the thing move across for some reason. Explodes if opened with metal key or tools, like thieves' tools. Metal will connect a circuit and spark black powder. Meant to be opened with a stone key. Oh, I love that one. That doesn't even need any more work. There it is. That's a done deal. That's a brilliant lock and key trap right there. Oh, love it. Whoever did that one. Mwah. Beautiful. Okay, so, wait, where's chat gone? Need to check in with chat. Haven't seen what y'all are saying in a little while. Okay, let's not call attention to my sadistic DM tendencies. It only happened once. Alright. Does anyone else find it weird to generically refer to minotaurs as such? The name feels like Kleenex in being Minos' bullman. The name of the Minotaur in the maze in the story of, Minos and Theseus and etc., the whole crew, the Minotaur's name was actually Asterion. So the Minotaur was the only Minotaur, but also he had a name. He was named after his grandfather, Asterion. Waka-doo-doo is taking credit. The other one that gets me is Pegasus. Pegasus is a proper name and is the only Pegasus. But if people want a race of flying horses, it's like, sure, live your life. I watched the original She-Ra movie introduction for the first time the other day, and for the first time in my life I became a little girl who wants a flying horse, because, man, Swiftwind is just the coolest. Oh, boo with that. Oh, bull joke. Asterion. Oh, boo, get out of here. Alright. What are we gonna do? People like the vampire idea. We can make a straw poll now, actually. Let's make a straw poll now, because now we're not dealing with a million different ideas. We've generated a bunch of ideas, and we can pick which ones we like. Straw poll. Boom. Now what are the ideas? Okay. Vampires. Who are the baddies? Oh, that's how we live now. Okay. Vampires. Golden Warren. Also, I like that idea. What? No. Not a vampire goblin warband. I also like the idea of like of barbarians getting involved in traps a lot, because that's kind of, you know, not something that we often see, but I think they would. I think they'd 1000%. I mean, theirs might be more hunting groundy, but it would be very cool. Death cult, death cult, death cult. Ancient elves. How many poll options can we have? A wizard. Ancient tomb. Ancient tomb. Oh boy, this is... Picked more of them than I thought. Mad gnome tinkerer. I love that stone key idea. I'm gonna steal that. Thieves Guild. Alright, cool. Let's make this poll. Create poll. Cool. I assume I just do that. Yeah, cool, great. We'll do this. Copy. Great. Wonderful. Where's that chat gone? Chat. Oop. There you go. There's the straw poll. And we'll work out what we're making. Hopefully things will get less hectic from here on in. I'm gonna put my money on... No, I'm not. I can't choose, so I'm just going to the results. Okay, so people like... Wow! Ooh, oh, people like a lot of things! Oh, dang. Alright. Are we getting a clear winner? We getting a clear winner? Gnome Tinkerer is pulling way into the lead. Ooh, nice. Okay, cool. I like everyone in the comments trying to... Yeah, okay, I've made some bad puns in my time. I like everyone in the chat trying to convince each other to vote for different things. All right. I mean, if I could, I wish that the pie chart version was over here because it's much more condensed. But here's what we're looking at. All right, who are the baddies? Looks like we've got a gnome tinkerer for this trap. So let's see what we can do. What are the purposes of the traps? Because he's a mad gnome tinkerer, we've got a lot of room to make multiple. That's true, a horned Pegasus has a horn. We have room to make multiple traps for this gnome if we so choose. So what's he doing? He's probably got a couple layers of them. We'd have like a vault element probably of stuff that he's protecting. We'd probably have an entrance element or multiple, and we'd probably maybe have a security element. So were there any other ideas that people wanted to throw out for this tinkerer right now? Can't guarantee we'll include them, but I mean, you may as well, right? So let's see. Separate the party was an idea that people came up with. The alarm that locates where the intruders are. Oh, maybe doesn't fit as much for a gnome tinkerer protecting stuff. A maze is just on its own a great trap. Fun fact, I mean, is this a fun fact? I'm going to tell you anyway. The labyrinth that the Minotaur was located in, the difference between a labyrinth and a maze actually comes from the story of the labyrinth. And a labyrinth is only one path. but it's designed to disorient. So you enter in one location and then you're completely turned around, and when you get to the exit, you have no idea where you are or what way is north, that kind of a thing. And so it's just one path. There's no actual branching options, whereas a maze has multiple options. But a maze is a great way of lock and keying, because, you know, you're stuck in a maze, you certainly can't get where you're trying to get to. That's true, but the gnome tinkerer wouldn't need the instructions, you know? Oh my word, chat. Probably has some toys he's built that he wants to test. A lot of his traps revolve around... chat! His own paranoia. Yep, I would say so. I'd say there'd be a paranoid element to it. Which, I mean, if the party's in there, they're probably stealing something. So is it paranoid? Yeah, look, I understand, like, this has come up a lot as well, the idea that, you know, if you're dealing with an old wizard or a mad gnome or whoever, then maybe they're forgetful enough that they need instructions to help them get in. The trouble with that is that excuse works once. Excuses are great, but any of them, no matter how good they are, will only work once for your game. You can't keep saying that every wizard and every gnome is so forgetful that he left a bunch of clues for himself, because your party's gonna... you know, they'll still have fun, and you can do that if you want to, but in terms of making practical traps, which is what we're trying to do here, then it's not something that they're going to buy more than one time. Test subjects for experiments. Traps with unfinished, unused parts connected to them. They need to figure out which are real. Yeah, look, I probably do need a mod, but I have no idea how Twitch works, let's be real. Could the maze be part of the machinery? Infinite staircase, which gives the party a point of exhaustion. Yes. False chamber, make the party think they've reached the place they're trying to reach. That's true, that's old school. Maybe the gnome is trapped in a dungeon full of other monsters. He cleared an area and loaded it with traps to protect himself, but left clues that non-monsters could figure out. That's a good idea, you should make that adventure. Yeah, I really do, thank you for reminding me, I do like the idea of traps that play upon the height of the intruder for a gnome. I think that would be something that's cool, and that it also means that you can play around with ideas of, like, if your party has like a halfling in it or something like that, then you can kind of have one or two members probably get through fine. They're absolutely fine, but the humans in the party, or the dragonborns, or the Goliaths, they're going to be the ones that have the trouble. So, you know, small spaces, things that are triggered by the weight. Did someone just say the weight? Great minds think alike. So, I don't know, maybe something like, we could have a bridge, you know, okay, if you've ever watched Ninja Warrior, you have those bridges that are like, it looks stable, but when you're passing across it, because of your height and your weight, you're going to tip it over. So you have to be quite agile to get past it before falling. But if you're smaller, you're going to have an easier time, because you know, everything's much closer to ground. So we could have a cool little room, which this is, I don't know what, I'm going to draw it for you. Don't know if you'll be able to see it. We'll try. Oh, a crushing room that leaves just enough room for a gnome. That's decent. I like that. I mean, the tricky thing there becomes, no, actually, you know what? Nah, not even gonna say it. We call it different things. I think ours is like Ultimate Ninja Warrior. I don't know, something like that. I might be making that up. But yeah, I wanted to say American Ninja Warrior, but to be fair, I've never actually watched American Ninja Warrior. I've only watched our version. But if we had like a cool, here's the door up here. There's a platform. I would have the platform definitely have like a slope so that climbing up it is like possible if you're good at climbing, but it's going to be harder and harder. Have a bridge that runs across. Which stairs run up here. Do 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 do. Maybe make them symmetrical on the other side of the room, just because that's fun. So from the top it would look like this. Stairs, stairs, stairs. Stairs, stairs, stairs. So they enter from underneath. Here's the idea. They enter from underneath. This looks like crazy person plans. Then they can walk across. They can climb up these stairs. Doing this in reverse is real hard. But then they've got this this sort of counterweight bridge that they have to get across. And if they're little, if they're a halfling, it's going to be a really easy check to get across this bridge, right? But if you're a human or taller, you're going to have a bit of a harder time. So that's not like... I don't know how I feel about it in terms of its effectiveness. I think it would have to have a more... I don't know. It'd have to be really hard for them to get across, or it'd have to be a deadly consequence if you fall. Because otherwise it's like, what's the point? That's true. Yeah. See, I like the idea of broken doors that need tinker checks instead of lockpicking checks. But the problem is, again, that, you know, anyone could conceivably get good enough at tinkering. I really do like that idea of the roof that comes down. Actually, you know what? That's a cool idea in terms of if there's a door that you need to unlock and you fail a lockpicking check. So to prove that you're Team Us, you just have to pass the lockpicking check. If you don't pass, if you turn out to be Team Them, which for anyone who missed the video, Team Us is anyone who's on the side of the trap. The trap has basically one way of telling whether you're Team Us. In the case of a lock, it's did you turn the lock correctly with the key, and it doesn't know whether you're using the key or not. That's why lockpicking works. Yeah, if you prove that you're Team Us, then you're fine. If you're not Team Us, then it doesn't let you through. That's the only thing that a trap knows. So if you've picked the lock correctly, you're fine. If you didn't pick the lock correctly, that idea of the roof coming down and then stopping at the height of a gnome, that's really cool, because that would make sense in terms of, again, I am always hesitant to make things that are like, well, you know, we let you live just in case you were the guy, but you somehow used a key wrong. But yeah, that that's pretty decent. That's pretty decent, the idea that it would, you know, at least be tough on anyone who's not gnome-sized. But then what about halflings? Got to defend against halflings as well. But I do like it. That's a good door. That's a good first door or second door. Ceiling crashing down. And then you could do something cool by complicating things for the combat, because, you know, no one's going to be crushed to death by being, you know, trapped at 3 foot high or whatever. You can sit or lay down or whatever and you're fine. But then getting through that space is going to be interesting. And if combat happens, you're in trouble, you know? that's cool. Maybe the gnome has a number of different workrooms with a combination lock that lets him into the different rooms, but any of the wrong combinations carries the penalty. Okay, what do we want? So we like the idea of the gnome being paranoid. He's probably protecting some invention or something. That seems fair. Yeah, clockwork creatures that come out of the ceiling when it drops. That's cool. Hey, two of you just came up with the same idea at the same time. Well done. Okay. So then, do we want? Because if we're thinking about what we learn about the enemy when a trap triggers or when we beat the trap, then what are we learning about the gnome? What do we want the players to feel? Do we want the players to feel frustrated? Do we want the trap? I mean, in the context of this gnome, so a trap as well. We can think about it being like a big statement moment, because we don't want it to be a tax on resources. That's boring. So do we want it to be a big statement moment? Do we want it to build tension? Do we want it to, do we want it to build tension in terms of fear of the unknown, or do we want it to build tension in terms of time is running out? Those sorts of questions. Yeah, it could absolutely be a Trial of the Worthy type of trap, but we're trying to avoid designing those today just because in terms of practicality, it's much easier to make a Trial of the Worthy trap that is practical, because they're a little bit fantastic and over the top and larger than life. Yeah, acid is a cool idea. Oh, someone in the comments said something cool about acid. What was it? It was something about like just a wash of acid being released that that meant that you couldn't stand on the ground. That was neat. Is the gnome tinkerer still alive when the heroes are going through these traps? That is a good question. What do y'all think? Alive or dead? Oh, sorry. Scott Prim just said something really cool and I'm writing it down. Alive. We've got a lot of alives. Someone says undead. Alive. Why not both? Alive. Okay, so I think he's alive. The gnome is alive. In which case, is he at the center of the traps? Is he? Has he locked himself in like a safe room, a panic room in the middle? Oh, that's a cool idea. If you're too heavy, the bridge breaks, then reassembles. That's cool because it effectively keeps them out. I mean, even that, like, even if we want to keep it mechanical, then you could easily just. Why am I still? This is. I need like a texture or something. If you want to keep it in a mechanical place, because I don't know why, but I kind of like that for this trap series. So you could have just a little like bridgey thing coming out from the wall on hinges, and anyone light enough can walk across. But if you're too heavy, then it falls down and you fall off. And then it's not lethal, but it's effective, and you definitely can't bypass it unless you actively like go in, monkey with the mechanism, stuff like that. What's this one? I want to read this comment. Maybe this is like an incredible situation. Maybe he's honing all his traps. Come up with the perfect trap. Because it works so well for the Omnidroids. And they get progressively harder. 'Cause Yeah, it would absolutely have to be a long enough bridge so that people not the right size couldn't jump it. Yes, good. So it has to be, how far can a freaking fighter champion jump? They jump far. No, monks are the problem. Freaking monks, yo! Yes. What if the gnome is a ghost possessing an automaton? That's a very cool idea that you can use. Monks are dumb. Wow, we've got opinions happening. 40 feet should be enough. Yeah, 50 feet tops. I agree. And you know what? Like, if one or two people get across, that's fine. We want there to be the ability. Like, we're not trying to make something that is completely foolproof. We're not trying to make something that is completely impervious, right? Because that's not fun. That's just a concrete box. What we're trying to make is something that seems to have gone to reasonable lengths to have stopped unintended parties from getting in. So, the gnome tinkerer may not have thought to themselves, yes, a monk will travel all this way to steal my ideas. But, yeah, so having, small party members and, maybe someone like a monk who can run along the wall, freaking Prince of Persia style, having those couple of party members get across is fine. But, it still makes it difficult for your barbarian, or it still makes it difficult for your, I don't know, your dragonborn wizard who doesn't have fly yet? I don't know. The vault full of patents. Yeah, that's a cool idea as well. A rope bridge that collapses when too much weight is on it. But there are ropes that crank it back into position afterwards. Yes, I am going to VOD this. I'm not convinced that it will be particularly useful to anyone in VOD form, but I will upload this to YouTube. Put the bridge in a vent-sized situation. The medium characters will already be on all fours once the floor collapses under them. Magnets instead of ropes? Magnets are always fun, so go for it. Yes. To enter a section of the workshop, you crawl into a hole and slide down a metal tube. I'm telling you, the bridge rotates when people walk. That's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I like that, Ashpocalypse. Is this gnome a magic caster? If not, maybe he has ways of detecting magic use in certain rooms, and that's what sets off the trap. I love that. That's a cool idea, and a nice way of stopping your wizard from bypassing everything with fly, mostly. Freaking fly. So that'd be a cool idea to have the gnome have maybe gotten detect magic glyphs put in place that activate certain anti-magic user things. What would the things be? What will deter a magic user from using magic at all costs? What's happening back here? Okay, great. So, one day straw poll's going to disappear. Sorry, got distracted by reading messages. Okay. Yeah, but then what other... do we want to just get rid of fly, or do we want to say... Do we want to sort of discourage magic use at all. Strength checks better than magic users. Oh, interesting. That could be cool. That could be cool. Just have, you know, I don't know, doors that have to be lifted upwards that get heavier. Like more weight is added to them anytime magic is used. That could be neat. But I don't think they'd put together that it was attached to the magic. Yeah, wards of counterspell. Great, simple. Could have had them put in place by a different person, even though they're not a magic user. I keep saying he, that's a weird assumption to make. When the magic is used, a counter ticks, which after 3 ticks sets the trap off. But if the gnome isn't a magic user, why would he let it get to 3 ticks, you know? There was something said earlier that I forgot to bring up after asking whether the gnome was alive. So, I was going to say earlier, someone pointed out the idea of poison gas, which is lighter than air, so it fills the top part of the room, where only, you know, tall people will breathe it in. That's kind of neat. Like that. Put that in like a vaulty room or something. Like somewhere where there's actually the treasure. So it's like, if you were in here and you are taller than gnome height, then you definitely are meant to be here. Yep. Yes, GLaDOS style deadly neurotoxin. I got you a gift. It's deadly neurotoxin. Yes. Make the gas odorless so they don't know to drop prone to avoid it. That's true. Is that too mean? Is it too mean? They would certainly feel the effects before, you know, dropping dead or anything. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I kind of like that idea. Plus, you can kind of lead into it, which is nice in terms of you can slowly describe to them, you know, you're starting to feel woozy and you're starting to, you can't quite focus on anything, things like that, build up the poison effects. I am a big believer in, I want to make like a cool poisoners system for 5th edition as well, because, you know, poisons in the real world are so varied, and it's kind of weird when you get to poison in fiction. I'm not even really talking about D&D, I'm talking about a lot of like plays or movies or things that I've seen, you know, when the poison goes from 0 to 100 like that, which for a lot of poisons in the real world isn't the case. Our bodies are very, very good at trying to dispel poisonous things, and that's why they make us, you know, throw up a lot or sweat a lot, or, you know, our bodies will do all sorts of things. Usually most of the symptoms that are horrible to experience are your body trying to get rid of the poison, and then the poison killing you just happens because your body can't expel it. Yeah. Oh, tons of poisons aren't fun. My sister is a writer, so of course she has a book on poisons and different kinds of poisons and what they do. The scariest one to me is strychnine. Really freaks me out. Do not want. And then you get cool things where different poisons have to be administered in different ways to have different effects. So like, some will be effective when ingested, others, your stomach acid's going to deal with that. So you have to like, if you get a powdered version of it in your eyes, you know, that kind of a thing. So I'd be really interested in messing around with poisons at some point. My sister is an expert in poisons. Yeah. Rats eat chalk or clay to counteract when they get poisoned. Cats, if they've got something going on with their diet, so In terms, like, it can be lots of things. If they've eaten something that's not good for them, if they've eaten something that's blocking them up, backing them up a bit, they go out and they eat grass. They self-medicate by eating grass because it makes them throw up. It deals with it. What does strychnine poisoning do? Basically, it makes your whole body tense up. So every single muscle in your body tenses to the extreme. And so you kind of end up stuck in this this pose of, it's incredible agony apparently, and it's just like you can't relax any part of your body at all. And I think usually someone who's suffering from strychnine poisoning ends up dying of cardiac arrest, because it puts everything, like lockjaw, but your whole body. And so everyone ends up kind of in these poses of great distortion, and it's very unpleasant. Some spells require line of sight. That's a good point. That's something that we could take advantage of for trap making. Now I have one more fear. I have no fears. Strychnine poisoning exists. I have one fear. If a character's intelligence score drops below 9, they can't use magic. So what about a gas or poison that dulls your wits a point or two at a time too much and you can't use magic? Interesting. There is a spell that can cause hallucinations that can harm the hallucinator. I want to say yes, that is the poison from that Sherlock Holmes story. I might be lying to you. I haven't read Sherlock Holmes directly. I just know lots of people who, or people who have read lots of it. And that sounds right. Yeah, repost your suggestion if I missed it. Go ahead. Still, I mean, I can't guarantee that we're gonna say everything, but that makes it hard to concentrate on spells. That's neat. Poison trap for the island in Harry Potter is pretty cool. Yeah, and you know what? You know what's good about the so this is a reference for people who haven't read Harry Potter. This is a reference to in the 6th book, they discover the location of a very important artifact that is containing part of the bad guy's soul. They can't kill the bad guy until they destroy this item, right? So they find out where this thing is hidden, and they go to get it. Oh wait, maybe it's not good. I just misremembered some of the facts. I was going to say that a guy in the past found the thing and stole it and hid it and was going to come back when he could destroy it. But actually that's not true. The bad guy hid it there. I don't know. If it had been what I thought it was, there would have been a great trap design, because, you know, he's hiding it there and you have to really like push through to get it, and he wants to be able to get to it. I don't know. It's actually not that good. I take it all back. But it works in the story. It's very heart-wrenching, even though I don't like Dumbledore. Ooh, gas making your voice deeper or higher so you can't pronounce spells right. Depending on how much you focus on the verbal and semantic components in your game, that could work. Why do you want to punish spells? Is the trap's purpose to kill intruders or deplete their resources so the trap maker is relatively stronger? We're punishing spells. We're trying to come up with, I mean, I feel like we've already done it and we can probably move on. The reason that we're talking about this is because if we want a lot of traps to work, we're going to need to discourage the use of too many spells, because they will bypass a lot of them. So like our bridge trap that we've got, if you've got the fly spell, you just get past it. I mean, I would just recommend not using a gravity-based trap for a high enough level party that they can fly. But you know, you can just bypass that, no problem, and then it's not really a trap, is it? So we're trying to come up with something that sort of dampens spell users so that they aren't just bypassing every trap with their spells, so that they're actually an obstacle. And it's not something that you have to do. Because, you know, is if someone's going to fly past something, that's fine. They have used a resource that they had at their beck and call in order to defeat a problem. But it's just, you know, if you want to make traps fun and not just a tax. Gildaean. What did Gildaean say? Oh, you're all having your own conversation about polymorph that I've missed. I'd have to go back so far to find it. Make the room a hollow stone sphere with a 3D tunnel inside. That way fly doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so I feel like we've gotten too caught up in how to stop the spellcaster. I like the idea of just wards of counterspell. I think that was an elegant fix in terms of just making people, you know, realize that they can't use their spells for everything. And also the reason that we were talking about it is because the Tinkerer isn't a spellcaster, so maybe that would be a cool trigger for the trap for him to go, if you're using spells, then you're not me. So the idea was a polymorph rune trap you can't cast if you're not humanoid. But Gildaean suggested also perhaps polymorph becomes the key. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so what were the traps that we came up with that we liked? I liked the idea of glyphs, of counterspell. That's nice. Just because it's like, that's not me. Also, I liked the idea of the ceiling that comes down. And I think people in the chat were talking about the idea of like having little automatons that come out that are mini size that try to fight you after the ceiling's lowered. That's kind of cool. I like that. Automatons, and then you have to fight while cramped. I liked the idea of the bridge that works based on weight. And if you're too heavy, then it falls down. And I like the idea of the room with the lighter than air poison. So those are all pretty cool ideas. They're a bit more of a larger than life, like dramatic, this is a trap adventure kind of a thing. But hey, get out of here. There was a fly. Lighter than air poison. So those are all pretty cool. They also tell us, what do they tell us about the Tinkerer, the person who set the traps? It tells us that they are probably someone who is paranoid and doesn't want other people wandering around their space, but it also tells us that they are someone who wanders around their space. They might be locked in a center vault at the moment, but if they've got a bridge that is activated by weight, and if they've got like rooms that they want to go through that, you know, activate ceilings that come down but leave enough room for a gnome-sized person to walk through, it tells us that this gnome is someone who wanders around and they have to access other rooms. They have to, you know, get to other places. Maybe even they have guests, but only gnomish guests, you know, things like that. So that's pretty cool. Who came second in the trap building? Because I feel like we need to mix it up a little bit. Also, I mean, we've only got, it's only half an hour to Critical Role, so we're not going to hang around for too much longer. So let's look at the Death Cult, which came second. What were our ideas that were cool for the Death Cult? We liked the idea of having something that keeps people to sacrifice. All right, so I'm going to write this down on a new page because I will forget. So keep for sacrifice. And I also like the idea, because we could have applied it to so many things, but since Death Cult came second, I like that idea that came up of the alarm, but the alarm that says they're here specifically. Alright, neat. So, does the cult want to die? Did I just burp while speaking? That's gross, and I apologize. Okay. Shoots to a sacrificial chamber. I feel like we went really big and kind of wacky and huge with the kind of mechanisms in the Tinkerer traps. So let's bring these down to a bit more of a sort of human level for the kind of traps that we make for this one. So, how about a locked door which requires you to finish a summoning circle to spawn some nasty demons in order to open it? The Death Cult members would be okay because they're bros with the demons. Glue traps, think of victims in the Alien movies. I've never seen the Alien movies. I'm sorry. I want to. Could you combine the alarm trap with the trap that triggers the light spells? I think that we should. A trap that triggers a spotlight on the party. That's a cool idea. I like that. So it's kind of, when I think of that in my brain, what I'm picturing is kind of like, you know, in video games when you get a trail of light that leads you in the direction you're trying to go. This would be like a trail of light that leads in exactly the direction you don't want to go and that people are coming from. So that'd be kind of cool. Unless the party are tracking down the cult, then I guess technically would lead you to where you want to go. So that's one way that we could do it, would be the light trap. Traps designed to wound the party with blood collectors on the floor. No, come back. The more they fail to bypass the trap, the nastier the big bad can be summoned at the end. Cool. Trap that injects something in the PCs to get... There's a fly in here, yo! Hate it. To prepare them for the ritual. Psychological manipulation trap. It'd be hard to pull off, but if you did pull it off, it'd be great. The Death Cult could kill captives, harvest any blood. Yep. So, there's a parade upstairs. Yeah, it is getting a bit vampire-y. So I don't mind the idea of like, you know, bloodletting. That's a very Death Cult-y thing to do. But you know, it's becoming a little bit interchangeable. Yeah. I don't know. I want these traps to be... I mean, that's just because I'm me, but I want them, if they're gonna be magic, I want them to be deep magic, you know? Rather than zip-zap-boing magic. What is the Milgram experiment? Tell me that. There is a time and place for the Briarwoods, and it is never. Maybe a glyph of warding that releases thunder magic. Creating a loud booming sound in the process alerts the cultists and also maybe incapacitates the intruders. That's kind of, I mean, if I may tweak, the idea of some kind of a trap that that uses sonic damage to incapacitate people. So that could be a cool, like, actual trap chamber in terms of, oh, we've sensed an intruder, Wham, 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 wham. Ah, the pain in my head. That could be a cool way of doing that. Interesting. And also, I mean, I like the idea of it being sonic damage, I think, because it is a believable type of damage that would stop you from being able to fight back to the best of your ability, but also would not necessarily kill you. Because I think players often don't have a complete aversion to the idea of being captured. They just have an aversion to the idea of not doing everything in their power to avoid capture. And if they can take damage to the point of death instead, they will take that option. But if you had something that was just incapacitating them, that they had to make saves to be able to, you know, overcome, I think that that is a believable scenario in which you could have players be captured by a death cult and not hate it, perhaps. The death cult has figured out how to reuse the balance card from the deck of many things. The trap converts good intruders to evil. That's very dramatic. Have a trigger that increases the gravity in the room slowly over time until the intruders are crushed to the ground to be held there for capture. Strength checks to keep moving, arcana to figure out the spell. That's cool. I like that. I like that, Brahms. Ooh, interesting. From Jabbergluck. Ooh, should we then say the death cult are ritualistically deafened? And you know what? That's a real cool concept, because even though it doesn't tell us like the trap, it gives us stuff to work with for traps. Because if they're deafened, then what does that tell us about them? If they do this on purpose, they deliberately deafen themselves, then they're immune to this trap. So it can be a thing that is just happening constantly, right, that doesn't affect them. And also it tells us that you know, they're going to be maybe harder to detect because they're all using sign language to each other in this, you know, I don't know, cult, ruin, temple, whatever, what have you. What location should this be in? Where should we place them just so that things make sense? It's going to have to be somewhere where there is enough light that they can see each other, because if they're talking via sign language, they need to be able to see. Yes, gibbering mouthers, that would be a good addition in this adventure then. In this dungeon. Yeah, you could have a banshee patrol if you wanted. A forest outpost, that could be cool. Somewhere where sound carries. Interesting. I read Del Toro Quest as well. There's that, what is it, in the second series of books there's that meadow with the fruit? Or is it in the third series? Oh my gosh, it all blurs together in my mind. It might be in the third series, it might be in the first of the dragon books. Temple. An echoing cavern? Okay. Another straw hole. Okay. Straw hole again. I've got like a half hour. Okay. Death cult locale. Let's go forest. Let's go canyon. Let's go icy tundra. One of you said Underdark. Whatever the next one I see from any of you is the next one I'll add. Inside a volcano. Sweet. All right. Create poll. Share. Copy. Stick it in the chat. Sticking it in the chat now. Cathedral is also a good idea. Did I put temple in? I didn't put temple in there. We can make it a cathedral in any of these places, or a temple in any of these places. It just gives us a nice, like, broad range of... Alright, what do we got? People are liking the canyon. Wow, people are liking the canyon. What are the death cult worshipping? They might just be worshipping death. There's an interesting thing when it comes to, pantheons, is that often there's, the more defined god of specific domains, but then you still have the primordial stuff. So, you'll have, well, this isn't the best example, but, Hades, god of the dead, who's very well defined, and then the further you get, the further, the broader the idea gets. So then you get, Thanos or Thanatos, oh man, Marvel has broken me, as the god of death itself. And then you get the idea of death as a being. You get your primordial deities. Worst death cult. Oh no, I didn't even realize the death cult. Oh, what have we done? But also, I love the idea, so here we are. Canyon wins, maybe. Okay, let's just go with Canyon. So, I'm sorry I haven't turned off people posting links in chat. I don't know how to. I'll work it out at some point in my life. So, helping people cross, want to be liches. I would say maybe they have... It could be cool, because if we want to make them dangerous, then we've got to make it something more than just that idea of, like, death is sacred and the undead are bad, because that's often associated with good guys in D&D, right? So, what if they have an unhealthy opinion that death is the purest form of existence, and that everyone should be dead? But then why do they deafen themselves? What's the attachment there? Thank you for the link to tell me how to get rid of links. So the death cult began when someone wanted to join the death cult but misheard them. Maybe they worship the embodiment of negative energy. Oh, hey Dezzles, joining us. Got like 20 minutes left. Silent as the grave. You know what? We'll take it. We'll take any reason. So, cool. They're silent as the grave. Great. They believe that in being deaf, they can, come close to the experience of being dead. We'll say that much. Okay, so, now, back to the trapping. Let's keep the vampires out of it for now. Just because I feel like vampires are their whole own, like, ecology and stuff. So, the idea of banshee allies is very cool, but that would be more of a combat element than a trap element. Okay, so we've got that cool idea of a space that they use to capture people specifically, which has the deafening noise. Deafening noise. I mean, the loud noise that they can't hear. What's something that we could do? We want an alarm, and now that the alarm is like, now that we know that the cults deafen themselves ritualistically, then, ooh, higher rank to deaf and blind. Yeah, maybe there's like different layers of like your dedication to the cult, and like you dull all your senses as you travel along. So if they ritualistically deafen themselves, we know that that the alarm is going to have to be something based on visuals, because they're not going to hear, wind chimes or anything. Wind chimes, that's what I went to for the sake of an alarm? I mean, sure. So the light spell is the alarm. We were talking about that before, but now it just makes even more sense. So, what triggers the light spell? Or even, does it have to be a light spell? Because I love traps that don't use magic. Because magic, I mean, is great. But when you get to something where you're like, oh, when this happens, it, you know, lights torches along a path or something, that would be really cool. Thank you. I'm glad that you're having a lovely time, Captain Joe Tater. I am a magic hipster. Part of me wants to fight that, but no, I am a magic hipster. Fireworks could be very cool. Fireworks could be very cool. In terms of, how would you have something that sets off like a flare in, because we're in the canyon. I forgot that we just did that to look at where we were so that we could define things a little more. Got distracted. So we're in a canyon. So let's imagine sprawling Grand Canyon type space with lots of different like nooks and crannies. And maybe like a Petra style or a Cappadocia style, like the cult live in the cliff faces and they've carved a city into the cliff. That could be cool. So what could be something that sets off a specific location flare for different things? And that gives you a little bit of room as well, in terms of if we're going with the non-magical route, because I think that's fun, and we did a lot of sort of magic-ish things in the gnome. It could be cool to have a flare go up that indicates to the cult the general area where the party are located, but you know, then the hunt is on. So it's not immediately like they know exactly where you are, but it's they're coming for you. So does this mean the cult leader has lost most or all of their senses? If so, maybe each trap along the way is a test against whichever sense Team Us would have lost to reach that level. That's a cool idea, because then you can have it be like, you know, only certain cult members can get certain like depths into the city. That could be cool. City, complex, because they're a cult. Sorry, I've talked too much and now my voice is trying to leave me. So a lot of people are joining us just now when we're getting closer to the end. Right, so what would be something that would be a trap to only let people who can't see past? A narrow passage that wouldn't normally need a skill roll, but have players make dexterity rolls to avoid tripwire that could ignite the flare. That's cool. I like that. That's a great way to ignite the flare. Noting that down. Ignite flare. Passage tripwire. Simple, easy. And you can just have them regular enough that it's like they'll probably, like, they have a good chance of bypassing the tripwire, but if they pass enough tripwires, they're gonna trip one at some point, you know? Ooh, the head of a Medusa! Damn, that's a great way to make sure that someone is blind. More links telling me to block links. Thank you, Eric. So, wait. Okay. Medusa head blindness. That's a cool idea. What's the other? There was something else that I was going to say that I have forgotten. What was it? Harvested Medusa's eyes that have been mounted over the archway into the next room. Yeah, Medusa is 1,000%. Another one of the Pegasus Minotaur cases where there was only one. It was her name. She was a person. Fun fact, Sphinx is not one of those. I'm just giving you a bunch of irrelevant fun facts today. The Sphinx was just a Sphinx, and its name was Phix, Phix. It had a name. It was an individual Sphinx. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if someone's gonna cut off their tongue, then you could have a section where you have to... I don't know. Okay. What was the thing? I had a thing that I was gonna say when we were talking about the flares in the canyon. It was an idea, and it was a genius one. It was something. It did something. Well, I'm trying to think back through my thought process, so I'm ignoring chat. So we were talking about the canyon, the flare, the idea of if these are... Okay, so these are people who are... Right, okay. I've found my train of thought again. It was not that genius, but I think it's a good line of questioning. So, I wanted to say, if we've got cultists who deafen themselves, and they have to talk via sign language on the lowest level, then what is a cool kind of trap, I guess? Yeah, we're still on traps, so I mean, yeah. What are some ideas of things that can, advantage people with sign language that disadvantage people without it? So if your party have to talk to one another, I mean, maybe that's just more of the lots of sound making things, because if you've got a room that makes a lot of noise and no one can hear each other if they're talking, but you can still see each other's hand signals, If they also blind themselves, people that can see stick to the middle passages, people that can't hug the walls, using them to guide them. Yeah. Spells with only somatic components inside a sphere of silence. Neat. If there was a door that required a password to be done in sign language, that'd be cool. So is this kind of a hybrid test of the worthy trap, trap-em and hold-em trap? Yes. So basically we said very briefly towards the beginning of the stream that the idea of the trap of the worthy and the traps proper and the lock and key, that's what the purpose of the trap is, not the way that it works. So something that lends itself to being a trap of the worthy could actually be a lock and key trap or a trap proper. So in this case, it seems to function like automatically you would think it's like a trial of the worthy, like, oh, can you hear? Have you dedicated yourself to the death cult? But in function, it is a trap proper because it's just trapping people. A zone that twists your words into another language you don't know. That could be interesting. You could play around with languages, which is fun. I don't think they get played around with nearly enough. Cultists have their own written language, so a word must be written, not spoken, as nobody can hear them. An echo chamber that makes any speech reverb to the point of complete dissonance. Maybe even turns them into dissonant whispers. I like that because it plays on the canyon theme. So let's go with that. That's cool. That's cool. So, echo chamber. So then what have we got here? We've got a trap proper in the form of the place that sort of locks people down if they can hear, because it doesn't want them to move, and the death cult wants them to be able to sacrifice later because they're a death cult. We've got the trap proper, I suppose. Yeah, in the alarm system. The lock and key in the form of the Medusa eyes. And we've got, I mean, I guess it's just another trap proper, the echo chamber, because it's really just disrupting things. I don't even know whether it would count as a trap that was laid by the death cult, because it's just, okay, cool. So Critical Role's about to begin, so we're about to shut down, and I think that's fine, because we just did a ton of cool traps for this death cult as well. I might even think a little further on it, see if I can come up with any other practical trap ideas, but hopefully you can see what I'm talking about when we're like, I think the death cult was the best example of it. If we go, okay, so here's the thing, we've got a death cult, this is what they want to do, they want to be able to sacrifice people, so they don't want to kill anyone who intrudes, but they do want to trap them. Also, they're deaf, how can we play on that to make traps that make sense? So we'll definitely do hangouts again where we're generating ideas and we're coming up with things. Whether we'll make traps again, I do not know, but thank you for joining us. Hopefully you had a good time. Yeah, I don't know whether it was the most useful, as Colville would say, you know, the signal to noise ratio was maybe a bit off, but I had a lot of fun, and that's the important thing. So go, enjoy Critical Role, or sleep. Lots of you need to go to sleep. Yeah. I'm just still sitting here, but I'm gonna wait as lots of people say goodbye, and I'll wave. Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. Now it's time to go. But hey, I say, well, that's okay, 'cause we'll see you very soon, I know. Very soon, I know. Whoa, whoa. This is beautiful, isn't it? All right. Have a good night, guys. Goodbye.